Well, here we are. It's Friday, and it's what's the date? February 6th, 2026. And this week we're going to talk about a bunch of things. There were not a lot of new Chinese and Asian art auctions that popped up during the week. There's some pretty good other sales that are coming up that we've talked about previously. There's a few new sales, but not a lot. I think it's a little quiet right now, but I know that there are a number of auctions coming along in March and April. So we'll be ready for those. But in the meantime, there are a few things you might want to look at that are pretty good out there. Some sales over in Europe we're going to talk about a bit. There's a sale at Drew Eats. I'm very interested to see how it does over in London or in England because of the Japanese pieces that are in there. For some reason, Drew Eats seems to be sort of on a roll with really good Japanese Arita and Imari pieces, and getting prices we haven't seen in some time. So I'm going to be very curious to see how this sale does, because the last 2 or 3 or 4 sales they've had, these pieces, these early Imari Japanese jars from the 17th, early 18th century have done really well. And also there's a quick reminder at the end about a couple of sales that are coming up. We're going to go through some of those, but I want to go through some results at the end as well. So stick around. We're going to walk through them, and we're going to start with this lot here. This is a big, very, very pretty Kangxi charger that's coming up for sale on the 11th of this month. This is happening overseas at Marquis dos Santos Limited in Portugal. Now let's see here. With the size of this plate is 38 centimeters, so it's about 16 or so inches in diameter, but it's beautifully painted. This is a really, really lovely Kangxi example. It's got the flame Buddhist sort of mandalas running around the inside. You've got the Buddhist wheel in the center. A nicely done plate. It looks like it's in good shape. I don't see anything wrong with it. Unfortunately, the Santos folks, they're awfully stingy with photographs. If any of you are at that auction house and you're watching, for heaven's sakes, include more photos. You're driving business away. You're costing your consigners money. And if you're a bidder, you want to chase these kinds of sales because of the lack of information, they often don't do very well. The more photographs, the more things bring. The longer an auction is listed online, as we've seen so many times, the Case Antiques just had their sale. They put their auctions up 4, 5, 6 weeks in advance of their auctions, and they end up with a lot of watchers. They sell good things. They get good prices. It's just the way the business works, and they do lots of photographs. These auction houses in Europe, for some reason, feel one photograph should be sufficient when they don't understand themselves how important it is to show the backs of pieces, the bottoms of pieces, so people can get the confidence through authenticating it themselves or having somebody look at it for them and say, yeah, that looks fine, and so forth. So this business model is a mystery to me. I don't understand it at all. It's absolutely crazy. Anyway, the estimate on this is 1,300 to 1,800 euros, which is reasonable. It has 1,000 euros starting price. That's another thing. I've said it before. I've noticed a number of auction houses now are sort of putting the starting price right about where the reserve is, or close to it. And I think that's probably the case here. 900 euros or 1,062 US is the starting price. And also in the sale is this very nice little late Ming jarlet. It's very attractive. Measures about just a little under 6 inches tall. It's a well-known shape, but the pattern, the Ming vine pattern on it's very nicely done. The shoulder pattern is beautifully done. It's quite tightly painted, but you can't see anything else of it, so you have to sort of base everything on that. It's estimated at 600 to 800 euros, which I think is reasonable. But right now, there's only 2 people watching it. This is the thing. They don't put up enough photos. 2 bidders are watching it, and one of them is me because I put it on my watch list so it would remind me to talk about it. So there's only right now on Live Auctioneers, there's only one serious bidder or bidder of any type looking at it. So these are the kinds of opportunities you want to look for. Now they're also on Invaluable. They probably have their own website and all that, but it shows that their marketing is off. They need to fix their marketing. All right, and then over to this sale's coming up on the 12th, and this is down over at Stair Gallery in Hudson, New York. It's a very nice lot of rose medallion, rose Mandarin wares, but there's a particularly nice Mandarin teapot in the middle with a figural scene, lots of bright gilding still on it. That looks like a very good example. It's a fairly well-known form, this urn form with spout and handle, but notice the handle. It's beautifully done. It's a very, very nice handle. It's got a beautifully done spout. I'll see if they do a single shot of it. Hold on a second. The rose medallion dishes are worth $20. There you go. Yeah, this is a nice pot. That's a nice form. It's very finely painted. Probably dates to about 1840. Wonderful quality. Looks like it's in good shape. I see a tiny bit of chewing on the spout, but nothing noticed too bad. And a little bit of wear to the gilt there. The rest of it looks absolutely fine. And it's got original dome top finial with the Foo Dog finial on top. Nice looking pot, very, very attractive. Estimate $600 to $800, $200 opening bid. That sounds about right for the whole lot. Maybe. Well, the big platter in the back should bring $300 or $400 to give you an idea. And then you have these other two very nice small Mandarin rose Mandarin saucers down here, and a couple of cups. They don't go with it, but they're nice looking. And so anyway, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 really good pieces in it, and then you've got some fodder in the rose medallion or the rose canton wares. But you don't have to think about those. The rest of it looks pretty good to me. And as I said, the estimate $600 to $800 is very reasonable, perfectly fine. And now this is some of the Drew Eats stuff. This is the stuff I wanted to talk about. This is in Berkshire in the United Kingdom on February 18th. So it's about 12 days away. You have plenty of time to look into it. These are some very, very good. This is an early first quarter probably of the 18th century Imari pot. It's faceted. It's probably about, 15, 16 inches tall, something like that. 38 centimeters tall. So that's, about 15 inches in height, roughly. Nice looking jar. Good underglazed blue decoration on it. Good enamels. It looks like it's in great shape. It doesn't have a lid, but that's not uncommon with these. They often lost their lids. And the estimate on it, though, is 2,000 to 3,000 pounds with a 2,000 pound opening bid. There you are. That's one of these cases where you have the opening bid is right at the reserve. That's how they're doing it. And this is becoming a fairly common practice. For some reason. I'm not sure why. Anyway, there are 8 people watching it. The sale's on the 18th. And then there's this one. This is another very, very nice example. Probably early 18th century, possibly late 17th. Their dating on stuff is very good, by the way, at Drew Eats. They're quite good on Japanese things. They've had a lot of experience with it. This is a wonderfully, energetically painted jar. It's got a good size to it. The enamels look like they're all in very, very good shape. I don't see anything wrong with it. And they do provide, a few photographs. You can go through if you really want to get a look at it. There's the bottom of it. Pretty classic. That looks more like a late 17th century pot down here. Late 17th, early 18th. We'll leave it at that. Any rate, it's got a $7,000, 7,000 pound opening bid with a 7,000 to 10,000 pound estimate. And it measures 67 centimeters high. So this jar is, that brings it in at about 26 inches. It's a big pot. That's a big pot, 26, 27-inch jar. Beautifully done. And again, I'm going to be very interested to see how these things do. And here's a big Chinese Imari example. Appears to be Kangxi period. This is also at Drew Eats on the 18th. And it measures 59 centimeters tall. So it's 1 centimeter under 2 feet in height. This is a big pot. It's beautifully painted. I like the cobalt on it is very strong. It's got a very nice white glaze. I love how they placed the balustrade running around the bottom just above the lapis, and then all the flowers and plants above it. And then you have these very nice, fairly robust ruyi heads going around, and then a secondary border, and then a primary floral border around the neck, and then that nice big lid and a big drop finial on top. All looks original. You want to get a condition report, as always. There's a picture of the bottom of it, unglazed. When they made them this big, they were often unglazed. This was not uncommon. They often didn't bother because the pieces were so big. They just didn't bother putting any coating on them. But the rest of the pot looks absolutely great. The bottom looks fine too. It's 50% of the time they don't have anything on the bottoms, maybe more. So we'll wait to see how that does. That should sell. That should do pretty well. That's a very big, very attractive jar. And then this is another Japanese example. This is a 17th century Arita jar. They date it to about 1680. I have to agree with that. And this is a very famous type with the tiger on it under the tree. This is one that you see in books on the topic all the time. There are a number of these in British museums. The Ashmolean, I believe, has one of these. And these are very, very nicely done. And it's always important to remember that the Japanese have only been making blue and white at this point for about, in any serious way, for about 30 or 40 years. And they didn't make their first piece until about 70 years before when this was made. And look at the progress they made in a very, very short period of time. And this one is 48 centimeters high, or about that works out to about 19 inches in height, I guess, right? Somewhere around there. Hold on. 48 centimeters, 15, 18 centimeters, two, six, about 18 inches roughly in height. Call it that, 18 inches. It's estimated at 4,000 to 6,000 pounds. The 4,000 pound opener is very, very attractive. And we haven't, this is the kind of thing I'm really interested to see how it does, because just a few years ago, wasn't that many years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, you could pick these up at auctions for under $1,000 in many cases. And here's one, and they feel strongly about the value, I think. So we'll see how it does. We'll revisit it when they sell, see how they did. And this is coming up at who's this? Chiswick's over in London has a sale coming up on the 16th of February. They have a number of nice looking Chinese market silver pots, Chinese silver tankards. This one is by Shenzhang, and it was retailed by the famous Wang Hing retail shop in Hong Kong. And then you have, I think there's about maybe 30 pieces of China trade silver in here, Chinese silver. So you want to look into it. This is a very nice one. I love the panels on the ends. The dragon is nicely done. You often see dragon handles on these. It's estimated at 2,000 to 3,000 pounds with a 2,000 pound opening bid. And right now, I'm the only person watching it. Now, this sale is sort of a short notice sale. It's 12 days away, and it just sort of appeared on my radar just today. So these kinds of short notice sales are where you have a pretty good chance of getting something at a more reasonable price, because it hasn't had time to penetrate the market. It's just like eBay sales. The best eBay sales are 10-day auctions that start on a Thursday or Friday, 8 o'clock Eastern time in the United States. That is the absolute sweet spot globally for online auctions with eBay. If you're not shipping to China and things like that, if you're only shipping the U.S., it doesn't make that much of a big of a difference what time of the day it goes off here as far as launch and close. But in the global market, you want to get as many weekends online as you can with an object in an auction, because it gives people who work during the week, they have other things they're doing, it gives them a little more time over the weekends. On Sunday, they got a couple hours, they'll browse and see if anything catches their interest. That's where you pick up your strongest bidders. Those are your retail customers. And this is a very short notice sale as far as I can tell. And so far, it's not getting a lot of interest. I'm the only potential bidder watching this lot right now. So check it out. This is Chiswick's in London. Just saying, it's worth looking at. All right, and then this. Now this is an interesting piece. This is coming up at Malay Brothers. Down in New Jersey on the 18th of February, and it's a very attractive. It's got double happiness marks on the panels. Coral ground cup and saucer. They appear to be Tongxi period. They appear to be marking Tongxi period, and the mark on the bottom is sort of an odd one. It is in Davison's book, because I double checked to make sure, and it has to do with. What is it? It's a peace and it's an admonition for peace and harmony, is what it amounts to, or not an admonition, a desire for peace and harmony. Now, it's got the wax export seal on it, because at the time this was exported, that was probably done some time ago. This may not have been an antique. That seal may be fairly old, but the porcelain itself looks okay as far as I can tell. Is most likely Tongxi period. Very attractive coral ground, beautifully done. If it's not, it's Republic, and it's still very good. But this in here looks pretty good as possibly Tungshi. And again, you got the double happiness marks all over the place on this thing. It's a pretty set of porcelain. It's just very, very attractive. And there's two cups and two saucers, so forth. The estimate is 150 to 250. I think it's going to go through that. I expect this to probably bring 600 to 900. They've had it estimated at 150 to 250. We'll see how it does, but it's a good-looking porcelain. All right, and then over to this. This is coming up on the 8th, just in a couple of days, day after tomorrow, at Keystone Auctions in York, Pennsylvania. Nice-looking Lotus bowl. And a lot of people collect Lotus bowls. This pattern, you'll find it on punch bowls. You'll find it in regular full-size bowls. You'll find it in shallow bowls. You'll find it in saucers. But with that Lotus rim, very, very popular. They started making them during the 18th century. This one appears to be an 18th century example also, judging by the shading of the enamel up in here, the way it's done, the painting style. I like the way the balustrade runs around this giant rock outcropping here, sort of a big scholar's rock. Very, very nice looking dish. And check them. Always want to get a condition report if they don't include one. Oh no, they don't. They just have a condition report disclaimer. So you want to get a condition report. Now, something interesting I noticed, their buyer's premium, I've seen this in a couple of sales lately, the buyer's premiums are starting to come down a little bit. This one is 27%. Typically, what we see most of the time with auctions are online sales are a minimum of 30% buyer's premium. And some auction houses now are 34, 35, 36%. I think one is 37% buyer's premium, which seems pretty predatory, frankly, but you have to just calculate it into your bidding and go accordingly. Anyway, this is estimated just $300 to $500 with $110 current bids. Got 7 bids on it already, but it's a pretty nice plate. It's 9 inches in diameter. It's got a little restoration. Okay, it's got restoration to 2 panels at 3 and 6 o'clock. So there's a repair in here somewhere. It could be very small. You want to find out how big the repair is. And another one somewhere down at the bottom. But it's a very, very pretty plate. Find out what the restoration is on it for your bid. Always want to know that. All right. And now this is coming up at Eddie's. Now this is, pay attention here. This is a pretty good plate. The plate on the right. It's on February 8th in 2 days. That's a very nice, well-known, it's an autumn leaf plate, Shunji period. And these Shunji dishes are fairly rare, and they typically sell for fairly strong money. We've seen these plates by themselves sell for $1,800 to $2,300, just to give you an idea. And it's got a pretty nice looking over the what's called over the wall bowl. These over the wall dragon bowls. I'm not convinced at all that that's a Yongchen mark. I think it's a much later bowl, but it's probably Republic. But this plate on it's got nice decoration on it. It's well done. But the bowl on the right looks absolutely fine, and that's a Shunji example, and that's what I would focus on. This one, if you collect those wares, transitional period, that that sweet spot, mid 17th century stuff, transitional wares, you want to look at this. You want to look at that. That's a nice one. And in the book, in Butler's book, The Forgotten Reign, I think is called the Shunji period. They have them illustrated in that book. If you have it, get it out and take a look. You'll find it in there. And I believe there's also several of them, or at least one of them in the Butler book, Leaping the Dragon's Gate, which I highly recommend to anybody who likes Chinese ceramics. I think it's the best book published on the subject in the last 10 years. Maybe the last 20. It's as important a book as the one that came out that the British Museum did back years ago called Ming Porcelain, which was an excellent book and is out of print and very expensive now to try to buy. All right. Now, some other things that have come along too, in the American furniture world, and this is a sale coming up at Malay Brothers on the 19th of February. If you like American furniture, this is a really nice Hepplewhite table with sort of an inlaid marquetry top on it. And at first I was wondering if it might be an English table or something. I don't think it is. I think it's American and maybe mid-Atlantic or something. because of the way the dovetails are done. They're sort of wide, and that looks like the side of an American drawer to me. But the top of it I find fascinating. This is a very, very attractive looking table. And I had an interesting message from somebody the other day. I should mention she bought something at Leland Little's. And I actually had two emails from people that went. We had talked about the Leland Little sale. One of them bought a table and something else, and they both wrote me and they said that Leland Little, for example, is doing their own shipping apparently now, or doing some of it, and they found the rate to be lower than what they had, well below what they were expecting. And one of them was for a piece of furniture. So I think hopefully you're going to be seeing more of that at the more established auction houses where they can probably take on their own shipping, because they've got to do something to fix this shipping deal that Live Auctioneers has, because the rates are crazy. The rates are nuts. Every time I bought anything in the last year or two since they really pushed this thing into existence, if I go to a local shipper, usually the local UPS store, the one that you always say, which one do the dealers use? That's the one you want to go to. It's been about half the Live Auctioneers shipping rates to 1/3 of the global auctioneers shipping rates on Live Auctioneers. So keep that in mind. Always check out your shipping first. You might surprise yourself. Anyway, this is a very, very nice table. It's coming up, and it's worth shipping. Back in the 90s when we ran auctions, a table like this would have sold probably for $2,500 to $3,000. Very, very attractive. Apparently they don't have the key for it, but that's okay. Here it's estimated at 100 to 150, and they're just calling it Federal Parquetry Side Table because of the woodwork on top. But it appears to be maybe from Baltimore, Mid-Atlantic, or down in that area somewhere. I'm not sure. There's a very unusual table. It's sort of a one-off. It's got 26 people watching it. It may do pretty well. We'll see. But it's an awfully attractive table. I suspect it'll bring $600 to $900, something like that. All right, and then this is a chair that this is the same sale, I believe, right? Want to double check. No, this is coming up at Tom Schwenke's down in Connecticut, down in Woodbury, Connecticut. He's an old-time dealer. He knows a lot about American furniture. If you've never done any business with him, Tom was I think he was a lawyer at one point early in his career, and then he got smart and went into the antique business. And but he's very well known for sort of being a whiz with Federal furniture, and he knows a lot about other types of furniture. And he's got a sale coming up on the 17th, and in it is this. This is a very nice English Georgian style chair, beautifully done. I love the backsplat on it, the way it's woven out with the shell carving in the center. It's always nice to have a great looking chair in your house, somewhere in a hallway or as a spare chair for your dining table or something. This is a beautiful example. Very, very attractively done. Wonderful workmanship, wonderful carving all the way down. I'm pretty sure it's most likely it appears to be English. They're just calling it a Queen Anne side chair. I think of it more as being Georgian, but he's calling it Queen. You must call it Queen Anne. Anyway, it's estimated at $100,000 to $10,000. So the estimate there's probably no reserve on it. It's a $50 opening bid. Heck of a nice chair. Don't be afraid to spend $600 or $800 on it. It's a very good looking piece of furniture. All right, and also in this sale is very nice. This is a butler's secretary. Now this thing needs oil. This thing, if you look at it carefully under this light with American any wood furniture, any European furniture, American furniture, it's missing a bail on the handle here, which you can replace. You can get those online. You just measure it and you'll find them. But if you look at the surface on it, it looks fairly flat and dry. And the reason is this chest is just desperate to get a little surface treatment, not sanded and refinished, just oiled and given a little attention. This thing looks like it hasn't had a drop of oil or anything on this wood to give it some life in a long time. And that's why it's so dry and flat looking. And if you were to color this and not color it, but use some, even just lemon oil or any one of those nice surface products they make nowadays, or Howard's Wax and Feed, any of them, put a few coats of that on there, or mix up your own stuff, which is we use a combination of 1/3 boiled linseed oil, 1/3 turpentine, and 1/3 vinegar in water. Shake it up and put it on the furniture. Give it 5 or 6 coats, and it'll bring that color right back, and it won't disturb the patina. It won't hurt it at all. It'll look great. And or you can use Howard's or any number of other things. But this thing would really pop. and it would be very attractive. And this is what it looks like open. It's a secretary desk. So if you're a little tight for space and you need a bureau plus like a desk to sit down, you can put a laptop on this thing. It's a nice looking chest. And again, the interior of it looks very, very dry. This might have been in a barn or an attic for a while or something. It's gotten no TLC for a long time. It's got nice legs and cleaned up. This would really be satisfying to own. The estimate is again 10 to 10,000, $50 opening bid. It should bring $1,000 to $1,500, but we'll see. We'll see. But it's a nice looking piece of furniture. And then hopping along over to this is coming up tomorrow at this is Roland's in Glen Cove, New York. And I've done business with them. They're nice people. Very good looking pair of 18th century Imari jars that have later sort of Victorianized. They lamped them. So they're all ready to go. They're fairly ornate looking, but they misdated these. I think they called these Meiji period or something. They called the urns. No, they didn't date them at all. Louis XVI gilt metal. They just call them Imari decorated urn form lamps. Oh, here, 20th century. They're not 20th century. These are 18th century jars, as far as I can tell. These are very, very nice. And right now they've got 32 bidders watching them, so it looks like a few people have spotted the mistake. And their estimate is 200 to 400. They're up to 450. They should bring 12 to 1,500 somewhere in there. We'll check back and see how they do. But these are very, very nice. If you're looking for a great looking pair of lamps and you want something, fairly architectural and elegant, these are it. The mounts on them are wonderful. If you have a home that has the right style for these. All right. And then coming up, this is at Bonham's or the former Skinner Company in Marlborough, Mass. I still call them Skinners, even though I know it's owned by Bonham's. They've got a sale coming up on the 10th of February. And you may recall, we talked about it a few weeks ago. They have there's some very nice Japanese pieces coming up in this sale. And this is a good idea this is one lot. And there are 6 pieces in here. The biggest piece is 10 inches in diameter, roughly. That's the bowl in the bottom. But 3 of them, and maybe the 4th over here with the flowers on it. But these 3 here all look to be late 17th century, maybe early 18th, but good early examples. I like the one in the middle, in particular with the bird on it. And the one over on the side with the script is good. This is a well-known type. And then you have this nice-looking box. Almost looks like Hirato, but I don't think it is. Anyway, but this is a good lot. It's a very nice lot if you're a Japanese collector. And they're estimated at $600 to $800. There's 17 bids, and it's only up to $240. And all that means is that somebody on there is going up in $5 or $10 increments, or sort of doing that chipping thing that people do. Don't do that. Leave a killer bid right off the top and be done. Leave your best bid whenever you leave a bid. Because you don't know, you may have a computer outage when the day of the auction comes. I know somebody that went through that. They had something they were desperate to buy, and the day of the sale, he had a power failure at his house. He had no internet, couldn't bid, and he didn't realize it until it was too late. He didn't have time to get his phone. He couldn't log in. Lost the lot. When you see the piece, leave the bid. At least so you're in the running. All right, but this is a good-looking lot, and there's several good Japanese lots in that sale on the 10th of February at Bonham's in Marlborough, Massachusetts. So check that out. That's a good-looking sale. And what else is going on here? This is something else that's coming up. This is at Thomaston Place up in Maine. My friend Kaiser up there's got a sale. He's got 3 days worth of sales, the 20th, the 21st, and the 22nd of February. All right. And one of the pieces in here is this. This is a very nice serpentine front Chippendale, country Chippendale chest with a red wash. The knobs might be replaced. They're not necessarily original. I don't know. Does he show a picture of the interior of the drawers? There's the side. And it's stained to look like mahogany. I don't think this is a mahogany chest. It may be maple or something. And they would stain them, though, to look like mahogany because of the country cabinet makers really couldn't get mahogany very easily. That's why up in New Hampshire and Maine and places, they used to mimic the furniture styles that were so popular in Boston, but they didn't have access necessarily to the same woods all the time. So they would use a maple and birch and other nice-looking hardwoods instead of mahogany, and then they would stain it and try to get the color to there. And this this is another one. It's got a nice molded lid on the top, serpentine. It's got nice high feet. The feet look original, nice high foot. The foot's not worn down at all. And this chest was probably made around 1780 or so. Good looking piece of furniture. If you like American furniture, that's a nice one, a nice country chest. $1,500 to $2,000 estimate, $750 opening bid. I think it's probably worth close to the. I think it's got a great look to it. It's got a very, very nice look. And then in the rug world, also at Kaj's up at Thomaston Place on the 21st, you got this a nice looking very decorative Caucasian rug with sort of that Legshi star design going up the middle, but a nice cobalt ground around it, and then a slightly lighter cobalt filling in the field, obviously with this rather rich red rust color, and then rosette borders. And this is a good sized rug. It's 4.5 by 7.5 feet. Estimate $1,500 to $1,800. Made probably around 1900 to 1910 or so. All right. And also this is the same sale up at Thomaston Place on February 21st. A nice big center carpet. It's 5 by 7 foot 10 inches. These tend to be very, very finely woven. It looks like a center. I'd want to see a really good picture of the back. Yeah, it could be a center weave. It's hard to tell from the pictures. Center weaves are extremely tight, and the rugs are very finely warped. Down at the end, the warp threads are very, very thin on them, and very nicely done. It's been recast. This purple thread up the side looks like it was redone. Sometimes the overcasting on the ends of rugs come loose, and people will redo them. All right, now hold on a second. All right, excuse the little interruption there, and back to the center rug. So anyway, these are wonderful carpets and beautifully woven, very tightly done. They're very thin. They tend to be very thin under feet. They're great in bedrooms, things like that. If you're looking for a pretty rug, you might want to look into that one. And then hopping along over to this, there's a couple of these jars in the sale. They're 7 or 8 inches tall, Famille Rose, 19th century. Nice decoration, lightly decorated, very nice white bodies. This one has a base and a cover to it. The base and the cover are later, probably early 20th century, but perfectly nice. Estimated at $600 to $800. And there's another one very similar. They're not a pair, but they're very similar. They look like they were probably displayed in a house as a pair. When you have 2 jars that are very similar looking but not matching. If you spread them out a little bit, they read visually as a pair when you get them at the right distance from each other. All right, and then over to this, another rug in the Thomaston Place sale. A nice cloud band Kazakh. If you're looking for a good-looking rug, it's 4 by 7 feet, ideal for a big hallway. Nice colors, woven probably around 1900 to 1910, 1915. It's got a date on it of 1883. I don't necessarily believe it because they did used to add dates. If it is an older rug, when you get it, you might have a surprise on your hands. 1889, maybe it says. It's possible, but I'm always suspicious of Western dates on Oriental rugs, though they were trading and they were making them for export at the time. So anyway, but buy it as an early 20th century example, $1,500 to $2,500 estimate. Nice thing. And then over to this. Now, these are not especially. These are rose medallion brush pots, which are kind of unusual. You don't see rose medallion brush pots very often, but these were very nice ones, and they were done in relief, and they were reticulated here. You can see where the trees come up through, and they cut out the porcelain in the middle here. These were probably made around 1850 to 1870, somewhere in there, but nicely done and rather unusual and a pair. And I think they went fairly cheaply. They were estimated at $700 to $900, which I thought was a little bit heavy, but not bad. They sold for $275 plus premium, or around $350 roughly. And this was down at Northgate in Hickson, Tennessee. But very interesting examples. If you're a mid-19th century China trade buyer, they might have been something good for you. Always look for the rare forms. That's the fun part of it. All right, and then over to the pair of paintings. These may come in this is the bargain of the week this week. 2 Chinese export. Now, they had them listed. We talked about them a couple of weeks ago because they listed them as being on rice paper. These do not appear to be rice paper to me, judging by the decoration and the quality of the detail. Because when you paint on pith paper, there's a little bit of a fuzziness because of the texture of the material, because it's not a true paper. It's a fiber cut out of a tree in a single sheet. They flatten it. It looks like paper, but it's really not. not. It almost has the consistency of extremely thin styrofoam. That's the closest I can describe it. But this looks to be paper, judging by the details, all the microscopic details, especially the very fine work here on the breast of the bird and the eye and the beak and so forth, and the way the leaves are done. These certainly look like they were on paper, either Chinese or English paper or European paper. And then there's another one of the birds at the bottom. The pair of them sold for $200 plus premium, or around $260. Each of them have about a $500 worth of frames on them. And then you got the paintings. So somebody got a great buy. I hope one of you got it. The estimate was ridiculously low. I thought $100 to $200. They should have brought more, but they didn't. So somebody out there got a fabulous buy, and so did somebody get a fabulous buy with these. A couple of China trade paintings, Chinese export trade paintings showing Chinese workers, a physician on the right, and some sort of craftsman here working on a bench. We looked at him a couple of weeks ago. I couldn't figure out what it was he was making. Perhaps the soles to a shoe or something, or some sort of utility object in a house. I'm not sure, but I like the way it was painted. Anyway, the pair sold for just $300, and these were done probably about 1860 or so. Very nice looking. Again, all framed, ready to hang. And with the premium, it comes in at about $360. Very, very reasonable. And then this was up at this was down in Virginia at Oak Ridge. This very nice big planter or bronze, and it was dated. The date 32nd year of the Guangxu Emperor. I think it was like 1902, but inscribed. This was absolutely authentic. And what held the price back on it, frankly, was the weight. It weighed 110, 115 pounds. This was a big bronze. It was 30. How big was this thing? 34 inches in width. So it'd be ideal to put in a garden. It was wonderful. It was estimated at only $100 to $200. A lot of their stuff is estimated that way. It's just Oak Ridge's way of saying there's no reserve on it. And it ended up going for about $1,500 with the premium. But this was a fantastic thing. The only thing that held it back was the cost of shipping, because if you ship this, it's got to go freight, and it's going to get expensive. It's going to be... Oh, Buck is excited. $600 or $700. Anyway, this was a very, very elegant thing, and it had a wonderful surface on it. This was a very nice buy. I had a couple of inquiries about it. I hope one of you bought it. All right, and then over to the last thing we're going to talk about is the Indian ivory that we had talked about this last week. They had listed this as being Chinese ivory, and I don't think it is. I think this was Anglo-Indian ivory, and there's a Buddha in the middle, and of course Buddhism in India was a big thing too. There were these little Buddhist figures around the inside, but the color of the ivory and the way it's carved, the curvilinear nature of it, and the flowers on the top. Hold on a second. I'll get over to it. You can see the Buddha right in the middle. There he is. This, to me, that looks much more likely to be from India than from China, that kind of work. And it sold for $1,900 plus the premium, or around $2,600 or so. Now this was ivory, and I don't know how they got away with selling it, but they're getting away with it. And we're starting to see ivory turning up in the American market. It's still a federal crime to do it, but apparently in some states the auction houses are allowed to do it, but they're not allowed to handle the shipping across state lines. So if you're going to get it shipped, that has to be taken to a second party, and then they somehow get it to you. But you want to be a little careful doing it. You want to be a little careful. I don't recommend it as a practice, because it is there are federal implications in doing it. And the last guy I heard that got jammed up in this was a number of years ago. He was a gallery out in California, and he ended up getting, I think, 3.5 years in a federal prison for selling a piece of a carved rhinoceros horn, and it wasn't even an antique; it was a fake. Anyway, it's a long story, but this is a very nice example, and so forth. So that sort of wraps it up for the week. And just as an aside, I wanted to mention, because I know some of you go over there every week, the newsletter page that we started out with by doing listings from eBay and things, and now that we're no longer paying much attention to eBay because it's mostly direct, what we've done is we're adopting the page over. We put the video there each week, as we always did before, and we're starting to include articles. And this past week there was a nice article in there by William Sargent, my old friend who was the curator at the PBD Essex, and he's a very good writer. If you're a Patreon subscriber, you saw the video I did of a lecture he gave. It was one of the very few lectures that was ever recorded, has ever been recorded of him. He doesn't like to be recorded on camera, but apparently this was done on a simulcast. Somebody made a copy of it and posted it, and I was able to get a hold of it. And he's a wonderful writer, and he's a wonderful public speaker. But anyway, this was an article he wrote on understanding Chinese export ceramics through Western paintings and prints. And you may recognize this from a few weeks ago when we did the video at the PBD Essex Museum. This was that white incense burner, Dewa incense burner that was seated here above Hu Qua, the famous Chinese merchant. There it is, and in the showroom at the PBD Essex Museum, they have the one of these pieces, this one, in a case right next to the painting. It's very nice, and that is the legendary Hu Qua. And then you have other examples, and then they show other examples of Ming bowls in Western paintings and so forth, and how they were viewed and used. Here's a big Ming bowl, again, down at the bottom, the washing of the feet with Jesus, and there's an actual example of that bowl and so forth. So it's a pretty interesting article, and every week we put something new over here, and usually at the bottom, for objects now, we have the some of the things that are online right now on the global member pages to give you some idea of what we're covering over there and so forth. So it's worth checking. You can subscribe to this. It's completely free, and you'll get an email on Friday night when we let everybody know that the weekly video is up. We send out an email to let you know that and to tell you that the weekly newsletter page has been updated. So there we are. We're trying to figure. I'm trying to figure out a way to expand the newsletter content each week, to sort of keep it, growing a bit. That's all. But for right now, that's what's there. So check that out. All right. Have a wonderful weekend. My wife and I are going up to. It's starting to snow. Look at that. Oh my goodness. We're going up to New Hampshire this weekend to see my grandkids are up there. They're going to hopefully do some skiing, and it's supposed to be very cold though, 20 below zero. So we may end up spending the weekend sitting in front of the fireplace watching movies and eating popcorn. That'd be fine too. Anyway, we'll be back middle of next week. So we'll see you then. Subscribe here if you haven't. Leave a comment. Tell me what it is you're collecting out there, what you're not collecting, and check out the American furniture and the European furniture that comes along. It's great stuff to put with antiques. Antiques look good with other antiques. All right. Have a great rest of your week, and have a nice weekend, and stay warm, and see you soon. All right. Bye-bye.